Every morning when the woman drinks the leftover egg, 3 men are watching her, and this man seizes the moment and sticks his tongue out at her. Dongjo is known as the biggest loser, bullied daily. He's the strongest agent, undercover, waiting. He hasn't revealed his identity to his crush. He dreams of a mission to change his image. For now, he plays the hero. Stuffing tissue up his nose, he prepares to leave. He wears a green tracksuit and gets bullied. He dreams of wearing a sharp suit and shedding his loser image to impress his goddess. But for now, it's not the time. He continues his undercover work in the small town, pretending to be a loser is tough. Before going out, Dongjo stuffs tissue up his nose until snot runs down. Then he feels ready. Dongjo wears a green tracksuit year-round and gets bullied by kids. He has a crush on showdown, a beautiful girl. Watching her comfort his lonely heart, even though her brother often beats him up. Everyone sees Dongjo as a loser, except the grocery store owner who took him in. For 2 years, Dongjo lived here, helping run the store. The highlight of his day is when the girl buying cigarettes shows up. Dongjo wears green sportswear all year round. He is bullied by naughty kids every day. But after spending a long time here, he developed his own white moonlight. This beautiful girl named Xiaodan is Dongju's crush. He watches her every day, and his lonely heart finds a bit of comfort in that, even though he always ends up getting beaten up by her brother. Everyone in town sees Dongju as a loser, except for the grocery store owner, who took him in years ago. So for the next 2 years, Dongju lived here. His main job every day is to help the owner run the store, and the highlight of his day is when the girl who comes in to buy cigarettes shows up. Maybe it's because he's too focused. Every time the girl takes her cigarettes, she just walks out with champagne. Just as Dongju is about to keep track of her towel, a middle-aged delivery guy walks in. Don't underestimate this greasy, chubby guy. He's Dongju's only contact here and has been undercover for 6 years. Dongju hopes every day that he'll bring him the mission, but instead, the chubby guy just chats with him and doesn't offer anything useful. However, on this stormy night, something unexpected happens. To maintain his loser image, Dongju does something ridiculous every month, and this time, it just so happens that his crush catches him in the act, and he instantly feels crushed. What's the difference between this and dumping in public? The next day, when Xiaodan sees Dongju again, she doesn't even greet him. Maybe she's remembering what happened last night, and she walks past him with a look of disdain. What's going on? You can bet he'll eat until he can't eating it. Soft. The boss lady's son walked over. He watches Bruce Lee movies every day and is determined to become a master like him, so he often asks Dongju to spar with him. Little does he know that this loser in front of him is actually a top agent. It turns out that everything just now was all in Dongju's imagination. Just as the two were about to have a showdown, the grocery store owner suddenly interrupted them. Then, they went to deliver goods to a rental house. The old man there is the landlord, but he's really stingy. Even when the girl wants to take a shower, there's no hot water available. He says that cold showers can prevent cold. Angry, the girl walked straight up to Dongjo and grabbed a raw egg from the landlord, drinking it right there. This scene instantly had all the men around unable to look away. At this moment, the noise in the room caught everyone's attention. The landlord explained that it was the new tenant, but Dongju sensed something was off. While he was working out at night, a guy with yellow hair suddenly showed up and slowly approached Dongju, leading to a fight between. It was clear that this guy was also a top-notch agent. They were going at it hard, and for a while, it was hard to tell who was winner. But in the end, Dongju had the upper hand. Suddenly, the guy with yellow hair started laughing. It turned out they were both from the same unit. They always trained together, and were both team leaders. Dongjo was upset when he found Wang Mao was also undercover, as he had been undercover for 2 years. Wang Mao had his own mission, but couldn't tell Dongju. The next day, Dongju saw Wang Mao and chased him. Dongju followed him to a builder. Wang Mao's mission was to join a talent show as a Rawson. Wang Mao thought it would be easy, but didn't know joining The Voice was tough. It required money, a good voice, and instrument skills. He angrily practiced his guitar. So Dongju wanted to see what kind of mission he had. Dongju followed him all the way to a building and was stunned by the scene in front of him. Wang Mao's mission is to join a talent show as a rock singer. Wang Mao thought it would be easy, but The Voice was tougher than expected, needing money, a good voice, and instrument skills. That night, a bully's brother vanished after going out. Dongju thought it was a prank, but followed the kid to find the brother. Hearing such a terrible sound, Dongju immediately unplugged his sound. Before leaving, he couldn't help but mock Wang Mao, telling him to aim for the championship on The Voice. That night, the kid who often bullied him suddenly found his own brother, who had just gone out to take a leak and never came back. Dongju thought it was just another one of his pranks and didn't want to pay attention, but the kid pulled out a sausage to tempt Dongju. So, he ended up following the kid to look for his brother, and Dongju found a spot where the brother had gone to pee. He dipped a little of the liquid on the ground and put it in his mouth. Based on the urine, Dongju figured that the kid's brother must be nearby. Taking advantage of the moment when the kid was mimicking his actions, Dongju quickly leaped up onto the wall. As soon as the brother made a sound, Dongju would be able to pinpoint his location. Sure enough, it wasn't long before he heard a shout. Using his sharp instincts and agile moves as a spy, he darted around the rooftop. To avoid exposing his identity, he casually grabbed a piece of clothing, only to find out later that it was Little Dan's underwear. The neighbor, Park Bu-chain, took the brother, eyeing the kid's single mother and trying to win over the brother with gifts. Just then, neighbors searching for the kid arrived. The clothing he grabbed was little Dan's underwear, leading everyone to think it was a scandal, prompting them to catch him. Dongju had to escape quickly, using his agility to avoid exposure. Meanwhile, Park Bu-jin was mistakenly seen as a hero. 30 of them. This so sets the stage for old Park, who has been single for 30 years, to eventually win the heart of a beautiful woman. Back home, Dongjo started writing a letter. Whenever he missed his mother, he would write her a letter and then put it away. His mother was his only concern. As he was looking at a photo of her, the lights in the room suddenly went out, and then a gun was pressed against Dongju's head. However, the person didn't pull the trigger. Instead, they warned Dongju and quickly fled the scene. Dongjo chased the boy across rooftops. A drunk girl called out, revealing her child was sent to America. Dongju carried her home, met Wang Mao, and chatted. The girl woke up, startling them. Dongju then sought Xiao Hai, who admired him but now monitored him. Uncle Fat planned to. At 18, the girl was naive. Her parents sent her child to America. She fell asleep talking, so Dongju carried her home. He met Wang Mao, practicing guitar, and they chatted. She woke suddenly, both tensed. Dongju dropped her off, then sought Xiao Hai. From his unit, Dongju saved Xiao Hai's life, making him an idol. Xiao Hai. After dropping the girl off at home, Dongju immediately found the boy. It turns out this boy is named Xiao Hai, and he also came from the same unit as Dongju. Xiao Hai had once been saved by Dongju, and he has always looked up to him as his idol. Now he appears here as a student with the purpose of monitoring Dongju. His original contact, Uncle Fat, knew that Xiao Hai's family had been captured, so he decided to rescue them, which was already an act of betrayal against the organization. Dongju was ready to deal with it, but in the end, he couldn't bring himself to do it. Now, Xiao Hai is here to replace Uncle Fat. While the two were talking about this, Dongju hugged Xiao Hai. It turned out that he saw the goddess he had a crush on. At this moment, Showdown was being harassed by her boss. Dongju was not convenient to come forward, so he asked Xiao Hai to go forward to help. At this time, Showdown's brother suddenly appeared and solved the problem. However, the boss also threatened Showdown that he would lose his job because of this. Then Dongju borrowed Xiao Hai's mobile phone. If you accidentally cut these photos, it'll be seen all over the country. The next day, the trio was formed. They were all good looking. A commotion downstairs involved the supplier and boss lady. Dongju stopped Xiao Hai from helping. Dongju was kicked away. Wang Mao stopped Xiao Hai. The boss lady was pushed away. Dongju protected her. He wanted to retaliate, but was stopped. She saw through Dongju. Her son confronted them. Xiao Hai handled the men. Dongju felt less lonely. Life seemed normal until his pager went off. After 2 years, he got a mission. Dongju grabbed the man but got kicked. Xiao Hai wanted to help, but Wang Mao stopped him. The boss lady tried to intervene but was pushed away. Dongju quickly protected her. Furious, he wanted to retaliate, but she held him back. Dongju and Xiao Hai found the men. Dongju asked Xiao Hai for help, and he quickly handled them. Dongju's pager went off. He received a mission. Meanwhile, Wang Mao and Xiao Hai got shocking orders to commit suicide. Dongju hesitated, as he couldn't leave everything behind. All other agents followed the order, leaving only the trio in the town. Dongju was about to go settle the score with them, but the outcome was predictable. At that moment, Dongju brought Xiao Hai along to confront those two men. Since Dongju couldn't get directly involved, he had to ask Xiao Hai for help. Xiao Hai didn't disappoint. He quickly took care of those guys. Ever since Wang Mao and Xiao Hai arrived, Dongju no longer felt lonely. He thought life would just go on like this day by day, but then his pager suddenly went off. Dongju had been in this small town for 2 years, and he finally received a mission from his superiors. Meanwhile, Wang Mao and Xiao Hai also received messages on their phones. To everyone's shock, the order from their superiors was for all agents to commit suicide. When Dongju saw this order, he fell into deep thought. If it had been 2 years ago, he would have executed the order without hesitation. But after spending 2 years in this town, Dongju had come to see it as home. He couldn't bear to leave everything behind, and wanted to see his mother one last time. During this time, all the agents who received the order followed their superiors' instructions and completed the suicide, leaving only the trio of agents in the small town. Xiao Hai received a different order. He was to monitor Dongzhou and Huang Mao, and then complete his own death afterward. Seeing that neither of them was willing to commit suicide, he angrily called them traitors. But when Dongzhou asked Xiao Hai to shoot him, he couldn't bring himself to do it to his idol. The deaths of many agents caught the CIA's attention. They learned only 3 agents remained not committed suicide. Now, Dongzhou wrote his suicide note and avoids his mother's photo before the suicide mission from superiors. Just then, Uncle Fat, long missing, appears and tells Dongzhou the chief instructor of the Dongjing unit will handle the 3 agents. Dongzhou decides not to die yet, needing to confirm something with the instructor. He picks up his long hair. He decided to take off his disguise as a top agent who had been undercover for 2 years and finally reveal his true self. Dongzhou first found his crush, Xiaodan, and offered her his most sincere blessings. Xiaodan looked at him in confusion, feeling like Dongzhou had become a different person, but they still exchanged simple goodbyes. Just then, Xiaodan's younger brother suddenly attacked her from behind, but Dongzhou easily dodged it. She looked at Dongzhou in disbelief, and he then told her to exercise more and never let her sister be bullied even a little bit. The brother's face was also one of confusion, and with looks of disbelief, the two slowly left the scene. Zhu had a final meal with the shop owner. She wasn't surprised by his leaving, knowing he didn't belong in the town. She gave him the suit he wore when he arrived. After changing, Dongzhou left. Outside, he met Bo-mei, who was speechless. Dongzhou handed her a note with the child's address. Bo-mei became excited. As Dongzhou left, he warned her about the screen colors. Dongzhou then met met the instructor, who questioned his survival. The instructor ordered agents to attack Dongju. He fought them, and the instructor but was overpowered. As he was down, two kids played nearby, and agents jumped down. To protect him, Dongju took a bullet. Just then, Huang Mao arrived. Womei was thrilled. Dongju covered her, warming about screen colors, then met the instructor. Questioned on survival, Dongju was attacked. He defeated agents but struggled with the instructor. Overpowered, he protected two kids, taking a bullet. Huang Mao appeared, and they escaped. Uncle Fat, a political science professor, revealed that undercover agents betray under pressure. The agents under him immediately started fighting Dongju. But how could ordinary agents be a match for Dongju? In just a couple of moves, he took them down. Then he engaged in the fight with the instructor, but every move Dongju made was trained by the instructor himself. In the end, he was taken down, and just then, the two kids who often bullied him came to play nearby, while the agents above jumped down. To protect them, Dongju took a bullet to his back, just as an agent was about to finish him off. At that moment, Huang Mao suddenly arrived on the scene. Dongju got the two kids into the car, and after leading them safe, they arrived at an unfinished building. Uncle Fat had been waiting there for a long time. Huang Mao rushed over to grab a weapon to confront the instructor, but when he opened the bag, he was stunned to find that all the Barrett rifles had been replaced with broken bricks. At that moment, Uncle Fat revealed his true identity. He was a professor in political science. He wanted to prove a point, but an undercover agent will definitely betray their group under pressure. Dongju and Huang Mao are the best proof of this. With no other choice, the two who fell into the trap had to engage in a fierce battle. But how could these little agents be a match for two top agents? After a brief exchange of blows, all the agents were knocked down to the ground. Dongju then asked Uncle Fat that question: "Is my mother still alive?" When Dongju learned about his mother's death from Uncle Fat, the last shred of his sanity was completely consumed at that moment. Then, Huang Mao shakily helped Dongju up to the rooftop. Just then, Huang Mao suddenly received a notification about advancing in a talent show, but all he could do was laugh helplessly. Before long, the instructor arrived with a group of agents, and the final showdown was set on this rain-soaked rooftop. After some pointless banter between the two, they jumped straight into the final battle. As the most outstanding agents under the chief instructor, he quickly took down a group of ordinary agents with ease. Then, Dongju and the instructor began to fight, and at first, it was hard to tell who had the upper hand. The two were exchanging blows, hitting hard. However, after several moves, Dongju was still at a disadvantage. The chief instructor was too powerful, and Dongju found pinned down, just as the chief instructor was about to finish him off. Xiao Hai finally appeared at this time, and the instructor was not in a hurry at this time. He took out a grenade directly from his chest. At this critical moment, in order to protect the two of them, Huang Mao pushed the instructor directly outside the rooftop, and chose to die with the instructor. Dongju looked at the lifeless Huang Mao, hopeless. He lost the will to live, surrounded by CIA agents. Xiao Hai punched him awake. He saw the bank book, realizing he was important to the boss lady. Dongju cried, wishing to change his fate. The girl's family awaited her return, and he faced reality. The CIA urged Xiao Hai to surrender, but she fired at SWAT officers. Xiao Hai was shot, and Dongju shielded her, both falling from the building, ending their lives. The undercover agents showed determination, and we mourned them. Perhaps this was their best ending, with hidden bonds and sacrifices. What about the girl? In fact, the family in the small town was waiting for her to return, and she had to face this harsh reality. The CIA agents urged Xiao Hai to give up resistance, but to avoid falling into enemy hands, she opened fire directly at a large group of SWAT officers, and the outcome was predictable. As Xiao Hai was shot multiple times, Dongju rushed forward and held her, shielding her from countless bullets. In the end, Dongju embraced her, and they both fell from the building, ending their young and heroic lives. The three undercover agents proved their unwavering determination through their actions, and we feel deep sorrow for them. But this was the best ending for them. The hidden things may not be their bodies, but their bonds. The greatness may not lie in their actions, but in their sacrifices.